Cards. Welcome everybody to the agenda of the city of Coachella, the city council closed session, regular meeting, the council sitting as the Coachella Sanitary District, Coachella Fire Protection District, Coachella Financing Authority, Coachella Education and Government Access Cable Channel Corporation, Coachella Water Authority, and the successor agency to the Coachella Redevelopment Agency. It's February 8th, 2023, and just as a reminder, that pursuant to Assembly Bill 361, along with the governor's state of emergency declaration, this meeting will be conducted via teleconference, at least for the time being, and also in person. It is again 6:01. We're going to call the meeting to order. I'm going to ask that Carlos, if you can note for the record, the attendance. Is our city clerk here? See here, so you could go ahead and take that. Move on to virtual public meetings. Can we get a resolution? Can we pass the resolution 2023-06 to continue fully or partially virtual public meetings? Is there a motion to approve that item?
Motion to approve it.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
There's a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move forward on approval of the agenda. Mr. City Manager, any changes to the agenda?
No changes, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as read?
We're just gonna move it to the next meeting.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written? I'll motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. We'll move on now to the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. City Manager, if you could lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move on now to proclamations and presentations. We do have an update from Renee Rosales on our code enforcement activities. Mr. Rosales, welcome.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just a quick presentation on the shopping center improvements and enforcement that staff's been doing. We've been asked that, what does code enforcement look for when we go to these shopping centers? And on the slide here, so the common violations that staff's been actually looking for, and they're very visible, is lack of maintenance. The shopping centers for some reason started dropping the way the landscaping portions are around the shopping centers. That's like missing plant material, irrigation leaks, parking lot striping, miscellaneous debris, broken windows, abandoned vehicles that are stored sometimes in these shopping centers, or any type of illegal signage which are burned out banners or flags that are not approved. The way the staff's addressing these property owners, we do visual inspections on site. We contact responsible parties. Our city's still small enough where we keep contacts for these shopping centers. And then we also issue the notice of violation, which we give them a 30-day grace period. By that, it's giving them a time to actually abate whatever they need to. We do give extensions to property owners that are actually working and showing progress throughout this process. If they don't, we get non-compliance. We start the administrative fine process, which are administrative fines that are approved by city council. And then our last resort is we get the legal team involved. If we get no compliance, we don't hear back from them, then we have to get our city attorney to actually start their process as well. So on our next slide here is some before pictures that we took. We've been working with the Plaza de Oro. Their parking lot was really bad. It just needed some attention. We had the tenants complaining. Residents were calling us. Landscaping issues were occurring. We had Smart Final that you couldn't see any of their striping. We had Jackson Square that was actually falling apart. That was one of our prior best shopping centers at one time. Miscellaneous trash, fencing, tarps, missing signs. then we had AutoZone that had some issues with a broken wall that they didn't want to take responsibility for. So we have been working with these property owners. Here's some master pictures. Plaza de Oro's now got a new parking lot, 3 inch cap of asphalt, new landscaping in some areas. Smart Finals actually did a slurry coat with some striping. Jackson Square is now putting up some tarps. They're cleaning up. They showed us progress. They're replacing missing signage throughout the shopping center. AutoZone has actually taken the lead to repair some walls. Other efforts that we've been working with our planning department is ensuring the maintenance agreements for these redevelopment and commercial proposals are taking place. Planning is taking an approach by any new development coming in, making sure we do a landscape agreement. So we want to make sure that these people keep up to par. And we're creating new maintenance performance standards in the Muni Code. We want to make sure that the landscape actually looks good. We want to make sure that our centers look in first class. So that's just a quick update. We're going to continue to do this. We're doing as many as we can. Planning is going to be helping us with this to make sure that we actually work together and make sure that everything comes into compliance. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer.
Council?
Thank you, Renee, for the presentation. What is the process when there's a complaint that comes in? What is the process?
The process is we'll send staff out to check it. We do check it, we photograph it, and then we start looking around through the whole center. We want to make sure that they're into compliance. Any visual violations, we do note it, and we actually issue the notice violation. That's the notice that we give them 30 days at least to start to say, hey, I got your notice. I'm gonna start working on this. What can I do to help? So if we can work together, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Some of these property owners just say, I'm not gonna answer you, or I'll go replace a plan with something different. We want to make sure that we keep the standards that we have approved for their centers.
And then other than the AutoZone, is there any other commercial owners that have given you any challenges or difficult time, or they're not responsive?
Not at this time. They've been pretty good about working with us. They've been taking a little longer than normal, only because I think they were having issues communication with their management firms. So they've been approving what needs to be approved. So we're actually moving along a lot quicker.
Okay. And then for the Food for Less parking lot, I know there was always some issues there with public safety. I wonder if they're a little bit more open to making sure that not only that aesthetically it's more appealing, but that also maybe they can put in some other stuff for some of the traffic and donuts that are going on in their parking lot.
Yeah, I know that the Food for Less Center did hire a security firm.
Okay.
They're actually patrolling the area more often. They are on our list to, we're going to try and do it in phases because we don't want to overwhelm staff because they also have the calls for service that they normally do.
Yeah.
So there's more centers coming down. We're actually going to try and do every center here in the city, make sure everyone comes into compliance.
And then I do want to make it just a note that, there isn't any, we don't target anybody. I know there was some conversations where, I had contacted code enforcement on a business and, just so that everybody is aware that type of stuff does not occur. We have these discussions like this out in the open, but no one is ever targeted. Everybody is treated equally, only obviously if there's some violations that handled by code enforcement and not no member of council.
Right, and I believe most of these owners sometimes feel, once they get the notice, they feel that they're being attacked in some way, but we have to explain what we're doing. Once we talk to them and explain what we're doing, I think they feel a little better. So
I
we make
agree.
sure that as long as we work together, we'll complete it.
I agree. Thank you.
Can you go back a couple of slides? The one where you're, what you're enforcing?
This one is Mayor.
Yeah, so it'd be your landscaping maintenance, missing plant material. So one of the areas that I think it's important to look at, and that's where, planning comes in, you can cross-reference is the conditions of approval.
Right.
So you do have, a number of different buildings that have mismatched paint or probably paint that has never come back to the planning commission or to actually be reviewed. And so I think that's important that, you know, that we look at, you know, painting material or the type of material. And the same can be said for like roofing. You know, you have different roofing material that's supposed to be tiled and it's cracked. Or you go up on top and there's like a whole tire up there on the top of the roof. And same thing goes for signage, but you know, signage comes in different forms. And so not only is it just missing, but it's just, you know, newly installed signage that wasn't necessarily the, you know, what was approved.
Right, and that's why we're working with the planning department, which Director Perez has been very helpful. And we're making sure that these commercial centers and ownerships, we're actually opening up the file to make sure that we go.
Yeah, and one of the things too that I've noticed, and maybe this is a fault of our own on the part of the city where, you know, we've allowed several commercial centers to be parcelized. And then, you know, the main person that's kind of involved in that is saying, well, you know, that's that parcel now is owned by, you know, McDonald's and they're responsible. But I'm wondering, what is our mechanism that we have in place where we're keeping the now parcelized parcel accountable for their individual conditions of approval? So case in point, you know, we have the new Aldi's center and, you know, it's looking great. All these, that whole little corridor is looking great.
Right.
And I know up ahead, they planted some new material. There's some new, you know, plants that weren't in because there was a lot of, you know, material that was missing. But if you look at the dirt, I didn't do anything to the dirt. It's basically dirt.
That one's still in the works.
Okay, and so,
The newer portion of the construction was up to code as the planning approved. And we are working with them to continue the work up to the Walgreens area.
and then what's the ongoing plan? Obviously, we're undergoing an effort right now where we're talking about, you know, this is important to us. You know, we want to make sure that, you know, things are not boarded up. We want to make sure that, you know, we're addressing broken windows and you know, but how are we going to implement this, Mr. City Manager, on an ongoing basis and not just when it gets like, you know, extreme? So is this something now that you're staffed up that you're going to be putting and doing yearly and doing maintenance on all this stuff?
That's correct. We have a list and we're gonna make sure that they actually stay up to par. I think us being, you know, down some staff, going through the pandemic, everything was just kind of dropping. We are getting, you know, the ball rolling again, and we're making sure that these developers and ownership actually comply with what we're asking to do.
What's the extent of smaller commercial owners and their ability to actually comply and do the work? Are you hearing that they can? Are you hearing that they will? Are you hearing that they need help?
I think those are the groups that have a better opportunity to work with. They want to beautify their center too. By beautifying it, they're able to fill in the empty suites. Some have asked if there's any type of funding mechanism that the city can help them. Those questions I've brought back up to staff, so hopefully in the future, if there's any grants available. I know in the past, we did some type of facade grant for small businesses, so.
If you can
that's-
quantify that for us, that'd be great. You
Okay.
know, that way we can get a little feedback loop on what the need is.
Sure.
I think that'd be awesome. And then, but what I'm hearing is that the smaller commercial center owner is more responsive than the bigger
Correct.
commercial center operator.
Correct.
Well, then let's help the smaller ones and, you know, the bigger ones, you know, let's get their attention,
For sure.
you know, and for example, there on Jackson, there's no reason why that shopping center should have dead palm trees. And particularly when they were allowed to put 2 new communication towers, like, and then what's the condition of approval on that? And that to me, by the way, looks hideous, and we need to probably review our ordinance in terms of where we allow these commercial cell towers. And you know, just it's something in the ordinance that allows them to do that, but the way they're finishing it and the way it's looking is not exactly, you know.
what we're asking for. That's correct.
Yeah, it's just, and it looks like what these guys are doing is just stuffing, as much use as they can in their property. And then not doing the responsible thing. And then the other thing is, what is, how can we deal with old landscaping? So while it's not missing, it may be old and tired and, a skinny palm that, and this is something that, Lee, you're here. When we're finalizing projects and people are looking to go and do their finals, it's going to be very important that we really think about the quality of material that we're allowing to be finalized. Because sometimes what I've noticed is that, particularly on Avenue 48 and Cesar Chavez, that they brought in old material and tired material and probably got it for a discounted price, and then somehow we accepted it. So I think that's something that we need to be looking out for. And then the other thing we should look out for is our own standard. So for example, on Avenue 50, on the corridor, we planted a couple of new palm trees, and they look tired, the ones we got. So I'm not sure why or how we picked those out, Mr. City Manager, but we shouldn't be paying top dollar for tired material. And I can point out the palm tree. So that's something like, hey, we're gonna do, like, hold others accountable. We hold ourselves accountable on some of this stuff too.
Renee, I think that when we were talking about the ARPA distribution, when we put aside, or we had discussed $500,000, the small business came up quite a bit about how we could help them out. And one of those discussions was getting them up to code, because a lot of them can't cover like some of the violations you're talking about. Some of them are fire violations. And so we wanted to make sure that they were operating safely. And so that discussion, I think, still needs to come back about that money that, while it hasn't been basically finalized, but that discussion did come up. And I agree about the concerns with the small businesses, but I hope that item comes back and then we can identify exactly, some of that monies, if we can put it into some of those code violations or.
Sure.
Yeah. And then I think too, is when we're talking about the grant applications, one thing we did is we took a trip on Cesar Chavez, because there's many areas where it doesn't quite fall under any commercial owner, and it's falling under the city right of way. And we just have this like landscaping without any plants, and there isn't any irrigation. It shows that there was irrigation at one time, but at some point, I don't know if there was that transition to the right of way, or if they just stopped altogether. And then there's the conversations of whether it falls under our expense for water, or does it fall under theirs? And I think that we need to identify those areas too. I think a great way around that was if we had been approved for the grant, then that was obviously gonna target some of those spots that we have, but that's a discussion we need to have too, is those areas where it doesn't really fall under any owner. So maybe we can try to start beautifying and putting some urban greening in those locations as well.
We'll take it over.
Thank you.
The Plaza de Oro shopping center, I went in the striping is missing on the arrows. I had not seen the updated, like, did they update arrows?
They're
entrance?
still not done. They have
Okay.
one section that's supposed to be a pad. So they're trying to figure out if they're gonna fence it off or add additional asphalt.
Okay.
The property manager's been in contact with us. He's been very helpful. He's actually been like the middleman between the ownership and the center. So he still has a few things that he wants to finish up. He did actually parking lot lighting.
Mhm.
They planted some new trees, asphalt. So they actually did a big investment at that center, but it was really needed. So
Yeah.
I know he's not completed yet, but we're still.
That's that corner lot that adjacent to the Food for Less, that and the entrance.
That's right.
That's
Behind
it.
Taco Mart.
Behind Taco Mart, yeah.
Okay, see no questions. Thank you for that
Great.
presentation.
Thank you,
Renee. Are there any written communications? Madam Clerk? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent calendar. It's recommended that these items be acted upon simultaneously. Is there a motion to approve the consent item?
Motion to approve the consent items as presented.
Motion, and then I'll second. I just want to make a little comment on item number 5. I think it's big news for the city of Coachella. And obviously the eastern cities of the Coachella Valley, Coachella County, Indio, La Quinta, that we were able to get this arts and music line. And obviously, there's a little bit of an amendment for us in terms of the overall cost, but in terms of what that corridor is gonna look like, it's pretty neat. It's pretty cool that Avenue 48 will be transformed, and thank you to the state of California. There's a motion and a second. Can we get a roll call, Mr. City Attorney?
Go down the line. I'm not sure, I know the specific order, but I'll just go from the Dr. Figueroa,
Aye.
Councilmember Deacon,
Aye.
Councilmember Delgado,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Galasta.
Aye.
and Mayor Guerra.
Aye.
Five vote passes.
Move forward now on the new business calendar. This is discussion on commissioner members' appointment. I think this might be a leftover from the council member Galarza, you were, or
It's just to bring the item back to the discussion and to seek direction from council. I want to give them an update. Our deadline for the applications for all the committees was February 3rd. An update right now, we only have 5 planning commission applications. 1 was submitted late, so 6 in total, but 5 on time. I have 1 for the UUT committee. I have 1 for the Parks and Rec committee, and I have 0 for the Arts and Culture Commission. Staff is seeking direction. We would like to move forward with the planning commission candidates and bring them back to you for discussion at the next council meeting. In regards to the other ones, we would like to extend it for another month and a half in order for us to do some more marketing and recruitment and get more applications and bring that back either late March, in April. Based on that, we would like to get feedback on if there's any other things that we need to market. We're thinking about doing mailers in the utility billing, more social media, and things like that, because we really had a low turnout on the rest of the committees. So based on that information, we would like to see council's direction on that moving forward with either planning commission or extending that as well to get more applicants. So
I think I agree with your recommendation on the planning commission. We have 5 members and we can go from there. But I wouldn't limit it till, like, if we get anybody else to the next council meeting, just take their application. It's not a big deal.
Then
And then on the rest, we have no applications, then who can we find?
Yeah, I think, well, part of it too, and I couldn't give, when I was reached out to by folks, it was, same thing that I brought up last time is people are discouraged to apply because they think that they need to get appointed, they have one person, we need to appoint them. And so, if they don't reach out to councilman ahead of time, they don't know if they submit their application and perhaps they don't get appointed. I think that, as you said, we have the, I think we redo all of them. And we change the process for all of them in the ordinance. I know it'll come, we could move forward with the appointment of the commissioners this time, but I think we can include all of them. And then when we call it to voters, to our constituents, they know that if they apply, they have a fair chance of getting appointed to a commission versus they need to be recommended by one commissioner, by one council member. I think we changed the ordinance on city so that we could, in my opinion, keeping it how the voters approved it by the mayor's appointment and revised in that way is a lot more fair than the current process. And I know that I have responsibility with the current process since I also had supported the individual appointments recommendation by council members. We live and we learn. And so I think we should bring it back and change the ordinance and leave it as how voters approved.
You don't have a second. I don't hear anybody else saying.
So I do have many concerns with this process. And then just so that I am understanding, Gabriel, are you bringing this forward or is a city attorney bringing it?
it was my mistake. I'm bringing it forward.
So you don't have anything to do with this item.
No, if we get direction, then obviously we'll have to draft ordinance.
And so your staff is bringing forward this item. It wasn't Councilmember Galarza.
Yeah, Councilmember Galarza and Councilmember Vitan.
Okay. just so we know. Mr. So I do have many concerns about about how basically the request is to take it back to where it was before. So many cities currently, what they do is they nominate a member or applicant for each of their commissions. It doesn't have to be where we have to recommend someone for them to get on a commission. It doesn't work that way. They simply have to put an application, but it's not nowhere to say is it's only by a nomination or recommendation, but it's preferable. That way, each member of council ensures that there's diversity and transparency on each of the commissions, which is what I fully support and believe in. In the city of Palm Springs, what they do is I think they divide up their commissions and they have 2 members of council who make recommendations, and then it goes before the full council. So these are all these steps and processes basically to make sure that everyone is being heard. By basically converting back to where we were before, Mayor Hernandez had made comments, well, just to make it clear to council is that he would be basically in full authority, taking that basically ability to appoint somebody. He has that now. It does not change. The only thing that's in the code is simply saying that each member of council can nominate someone. That is it. So there really isn't any difference from where we have today and then what we had 2 years ago, other than now each member of council gets to nominate somebody. If the mayor isn't happy with those applicants, as it was in 2021, when mayoral candidate Leslie Figueroa was denied, and that was Councilmember Beeman Jacinto's applicant, she wasn't allowed to be on the commission. So the mayor does have the authority to go ahead and deny and appoint who he wants to appoint. It simply says now that each member of council can go through a nomination. That is it.
I think I just want to clarify too, for the appointment that was filled by the alternate, you had the power to block that vote. You abstained that day. Had you not abstained and had you voted no, that item would have failed. The nomination of mayor to nominate the alternate. And had you stood with your colleague or our colleague Megan Beeman Jacinto that meeting, the item would have failed and we would have brought it back and discussed it. I was absent during that item because my son was born the next day. But I just want to clarify that's the case. Like, you're trying to bring in political and all the other stuff when, as a council member, and I brought it up, we have an issue, not recently, but we had an issue over the last 2 years of how many times we abstained on items. And I think we learned from it. I made my point about it. Cities that you mentioned don't have a directly elected mayor, and it's not in their voter approved. Ours is. Whether, obviously I already made my point, so we're not gonna get a second. I won't get a second, then we move forward and we'll still ask folks to apply, and we'll appoint commissioners the way that we currently do. I just wanted to bring it back because I think it merit discussion.
Yeah, and then just for the record, I'm okay with things as they are, and I've never once brought it up about, not letting a council member have the ability to, bring in or nominate someone, and I'm completely okay with it. I think the council member or Mayor Pro Tem Galarza's point is that it creates ambiguity amongst the side of the applicant, that in the event that they want to apply, they have to then go to one of the council members to hopefully get them to be nominated or appointed. And so that is what the request is to try to streamline, and maybe it's, well, everybody just submit, and it really is a matter of, if it goes back the old way, it's a matter of how I choose to do it. Before I've basically said, well, every applicant, we can debate them as a council. That's what I've said before. And I haven't selected one member or another or put my nominees. I've made it a very a process in which all of us as a council have gotten to decide who served on the board. But in terms of what your point is, just to stipulate, is that you feel that there's ambiguity on the point of on the side, I should say, of the applicant, of the constituent, in terms of them having to go to one council member to get them, heard. And that's a valid point. That's a valid point.
A practice that La Quinta does have is that they don't open up a time period. They allow applications to come in all year round, which as it should be. So
Yep.
it's not when someone just opens it up during that time frame. It's basically you can put an application at any time. So if someone vacates a seat, well, those applicants are there and then obviously respectfully looked at and reviewed in the order that they came in, which is then obviously that member of council's decision whether they want to nominate someone, in that applicant pool, which is probably strongly recommended and should be supported. Or, as I said, the mayor can decide not to and appoint someone else or decide, let's vote as a full council, as a majority. He has that ability. He does. He doesn't need this change. He has it already regardless. So
Right, and it becomes political. For instance, you just use the vacancy as an example on how, and you mentioned that the person was a mayoral candidate. That now it becomes a political issue, saying, well, you didn't appoint that person that was vacant because they challenged you for the mayoral. Those are, it's a necessary thing, becomes messy. I think the process that was approved by the voters about 15 years ago in the directly elected, when they chose to elect a directly elected mayor, I think that's a more fair process. I think if the voters would have wanted otherwise, then they could have voted otherwise then. And obviously, if people want to bring on a different voter proposition, then they can. Our city has a voter approved mayor, a strong mayor, and we could choose, obviously, even today, right? You mentioned it's his recommendation. If it's a recommendation, then let's move it, let's take it away and keep it how it's a lot more efficient, a lot more organized, and a lot more fair to our constituents.
Well, speaking from everyone else, whatever we have right now. is gonna
Yeah,
stay.
the case is today, if someone thinks it's a merit of discussion, if not, then we dice today. If it's a discussion, then we can bring forward ordinance in the next meeting, and then it dies then or lives. It'll just be further debate. I think if today as a council that you're not going to push forward the ordinance, and then we let it die today, and we just make sure we move forward the applications and we market them. But if you think that it's a fair idea that I'm bringing forward, then we can discuss. I also don't want to bring it forth just for the sake of I'm bringing it up. Let's bring it forth and it dies 2 weeks from now. I think that as a council, as a person, today whether or not where you prefer this model or the one that we had 2 years ago.
what this conversation does spare, though, is the mayor from any responsibility for it. So, for example, if the mayor decides to not allow someone to come through, and I say mayoral candidate Leslie Figueroa because she was the only nominee that was declined, the only one. Out of all of our nominees, we were all respected as such.
There was a reason.
You were part of that though.
But hold
Had you voted no, with another council member, then the mayor's nomination would have died. It was 2-2. Instead of being 2-2, it was 2-1-1 because you chose to abstain. Had you voted no, instead of putting the blame on others, take some accountability, some personal responsibility on what you did there too.
I'll also own what I said at the time, because I remember at the time we wanted to make sure that because there was a lot more involvement, that anyone who was part of any commission didn't serve on more than one commission. And Ms. Figueroa was a chairwoman of the Arts Commission. She also wanted, and she held the Parks Commission, and she had a very big role there. And she wanted to vacate the Parks Commission and come on this commission. And then you would lose the momentum of what the work was at the Park Commission and creating another issue. So our point here is that while there are members that want to do every single committee, or every member wants to go to every committee and serve more than one, we believe that people should have a fair share of like, why should somebody be on 2 or 3 committees? They shouldn't. If they want, let people serve. And that was the point. And that's why at the time we didn't support that nomination. I don't see that point relevant one way other than the fact that it's going to be political or trying to make it political or not. But the question and the at hand is, what do we want to do? Do we want to keep it the same or do we want to change it? That's it. And right now, I'm saying, I'm fine with the way things are. We can look at the nominees, we can go, but I'm one person. You have Councilmember Galarza wants to make a change, Councilmember Delgado, who wants to keep it the way it is, and we have 2 new council members that can dive in on this subject, and we can go from there.
I personally am okay with the way that it's set up, because the way I read this is very much so that the people come, right, the residents come and apply and are able to then be presented to the city council, and then you're able to decide from the applicants. And I think it really stems down to that piece. Dr. Martin said there wasn't enough applicants. And so I think a big piece there is really focusing on the library and utilizing that, because there's a lot of youth that qualify and meet the criteria, but not just youth, also people from across the age range in your city that might be interested in applying, especially for Parks and Rec, and then doing that kind of stuff. And so how do we get people that are in a high visible area and working with our partners just here on 6th Street and marketing in that sense? But really, so, I'm okay the way it is on the sense that, you read the appointment ordinance and how it's very straightforward, and it showcases transparency as it is, because at the end of the day, the mayor may appoint someone with approval by city council. So it's very different on the language. So I'm okay with the way the language is worded on the current chapter 2.26.
Filling it out right now, it's to remain as is. And then, but in terms of where what we're gonna do with respect to the number of applicants that we've got right now, if you have 0 applicants, you can't appoint anybody. So it's pretty simple. The Parks Commission, you gotta keep it open. The Arts Commission, you gotta keep it open. The UUT Committee, you gotta keep it open. We do have, 6 applicants for the Planning Commission, bring them forward.
And you suggested that we allow Plan Commission up to the next council meeting?
Yeah, I mean, if they're, look, if.
Well, that should be set too.
Probably to comply with the Brown Act 72 hours before the next council meeting. So when is the next meeting?
22nd.
Okay, so then by the 18th, well, what is that? Hold on, did I get the 72?
Oh, by the date that they need to publish the agenda online.
That's correct. So that's the 72 hours on the Brown Act. So then that's extended to them.
And since we've always had challenges with getting enough applications, let's just allow to receive applications at any time, and then they can just stay in that pool. And when we have an opening, they can be reviewed. We can, announce it again, and then also review the applications there in case there's this shortage of applications we're receiving.
Let's bring forward to the Youth Advisory Commission. We approved it. It's there. It just never got filled because we have the same problem that we have now. So let's include that one in the outreach.
The Youth Commission, is that also accepts, like, they take applications as well, or it's just anyone who wants to?
Applications as well.
Yeah, we Mayor and Council Member Jacinto brought this forth, and we approved it. Just that it died. It sort of didn't die, but we didn't move it forward because we didn't really attract applications for it.
We'll coordinate with the school district, see if we can get some more applicants for that one.
Yeah, and Gabe, for the applications, I think we should move forward with what we have with the Planning Commission for those who've already applied. I mean, we did allow for a pretty good time frame. The other ones, I think we should definitely work on promoting them a little bit more frequently on social media. People are active on social media, but if we only add them, a couple of times, I think folks will forget. So maybe setting like reminders, maybe posting them once a week and saying, don't forget the deadline is, this day. I think that would be really helpful. And then with the youth council, we have a lot of groups in-house and working in the city of Coachella that do a lot of work with teenagers and high school students. Reaching out to them would be, something really important to do, I think.
I think though, one of the challenges we need to consider is how are the announcements being given to the community, just through social media?
Currently, social media and website.
So what else can we do to try to, not everybody is looking at our social media, and not everyone gets the post as they're posted. And so what are other ways that we can attract more applicants?
I think that's what they're asking us.
Yeah, that's the
Well,
direction they're asking.
I'm saying this because like for the planning commission,
Mhm.
I prefer to leave that open as well, as we're looking for new ways of putting, these announcements out, that we also, so that we're inclusive of the planning commission.
So what are those
Right,
new
but what would
ways?
be other ways?
So
We can do a utility billing, everybody gets a water bill. We can put a flyer in there. We can create a QR code and people can scan it and apply. The application will come up and they can submit it online. We can do something creative like that we've done, that we can do. So there's many avenues that we can take. It's just, giving staff enough time to implement them. There's costs associated with creating those
Yeah.
things as well. So it's just how big you want us to go.
Gabe, can we also work with the library? I mean, Denise, the manager over there, I think she does a really good job at sharing the information, even when people go for, I don't know, a listening session or whatnot, but she could also distribute that information too, if we're to post it over there.
Right.
The coffee shop right across, I think all of us are there at least once a week, or at least I am. We could also distribute the information there. So
Week, once a day.
Once a day.
Twice a day?
not true, but I think there are different things that we can do, is sharing it throughout our community. We have access to the community. We are here. So being able to talk to folks that are in-house and letting them know, like, hey, make sure you share this information, talking to people constantly and letting them know. We have Todec right across as well. I think there's a lot of opportunities for us to be able to get folks.
So,
I
one,
think there's, sorry.
no, go ahead.
I think that we have an email distribution list
Yeah.
for all of our nonprofits. I think just sending them out and then including them, so that then maybe they can advertise it within each of their locations, especially here, since they're all within this chamber, I think is a good start. And Martha's always been very good at putting using those street signage to also notify residents. So there's two other options.
One thing about the application, it's not user friendly on so looking at City of La Quinta's one is one application for everything, and it's fillable and iPad friendly fillable too. So I think that makes it easier for some people, because some people have to print it out, but then people can still print it out and fill it out. So if it's fillable online for more tech savvy individuals, but also for people that are not easier on the computer to use, it's still, it won't have any issues with formatting when they print it out to do that. So making it fillable, I think, is easier for people to fill in and not feel like they're constricted. Because I remember when I had to apply, I had to convert it to Word document so that I can fill it out. And then, but I only knew because I had Adobe Pro to turn it to Word, but things like that, just small little features like that would help it. So.
Thank you for your feedback and direction.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move on to public comments. The public may address the city council board on any item of interest to the public that is not on the agenda, but is within subject matter jurisdiction thereof. Bienvenidos. Welcome. Bienvenido.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. My name is Humberto Ruiz, and I've been organizing Career Day for almost 13 years already. I did it for 10 years over Cesar Chavez, a couple years on CDA, because the COVID we stopped, like a couple of weeks before. So now I'm not organizing it, but they asked me for help. For CDA case, and I brought some application for you'd like to go and participate. I don't have enough for all the members. Everything is done almost, but I know the student, they would like to see you there, talk to you about your experience from the childhood to where you are right now. And that'll be like a good experience for them, oh, we saw the mayor, we saw the council member, Virgen, Delgado, Galarza.
Yes.
Yeah, and doctor, we need a doctor there. Only one time I got a doctor there, but it's kind of hard, I know, because you have to go see your questions, but I would like to invite you and.
Yeah.
That's one.
Here.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in it? Okay.
I-
thank you.
Which one?
You in it
Which one?
for the career day?
I'm all about supporting, I work in higher education, so yes, I'm all about supporting the
But I'm
students.
gonna leave some invitations. Call Ms. Reyes, Angie Reyes, CDA, and let her know that you're gonna be attending. It's gonna be from 8 to 10:30, 11 the latest. And just talk to them, and let them know to continue school. School is the best thing that they can be for them. It was like it was for you too. So I would like, I'm not gonna be there, but I know I'm gonna find out who was there.
¿Cuándo es? When is it again?
It's gonna be on February 17th, next Friday,
Also next week.
And also right now they gave me some for CV. They're gonna do a every day over
They
there.
reached out. Very good. Thank you. Muchas gracias. And then
Gracias.
we'll put it on.
Con Gabriel. Con Gabriel.
Sí, me gusta.
Muchas gracias, sir.
Gracias.
Any other speaker?
If there are any attendees online who would like to speak, please raise your hand.
All right, we'll move on now to council comments. Doctor?
I went to another one of the community cleanup, that's this weekend. Community meetings with Maritza, and that was very informative. This one was in, oh, that's the same one, because it was right before the other council meeting. But I'm looking forward to another one there. I'm finally gonna do the TOT one on Avenue 53 in next week, so that'll be really cool. And I also was able to go to the Sunnylands last night to a place at the table exhibition reception, and that was really informative. I'm hoping, there's a way to partner with Sunnylands to be able to take, how do we incorporate bringing that, out to Coachella and being able to see the fine china and how do you properly have etiquette and eat all the different stuff that the presidents use. So that was very there. And then got to meet the new building official this week as well at the coffee shop the other day, and that was great too. He was working on a project with Gabriel. And so those are all my comments. The only one thing, doing talk about city council, I know that we have a vacant finance director. One thing we don't have is a finance committee as a city council, but that's just an idea for when you kind of bring a new finance director in the future. And my only, I know you're going to recruit for that position. I'm not sure what industry standard is when you utilize for high level management positions like that for recruiting. So I'm not sure if you're going to do it in-house or is it going to be utilized on a firm that you utilize for recruitment. So
We're gonna do just a conventional recruitment on our website, Indeed, LinkedIn, and governmentjobs.gov. So we recruit that way. We do an internal recruitment, and then we go out to the public.
thank you.
Councilmember Rita?
Thank you. Just a couple of comments. This morning, I had the opportunity to go to CV High School and talk to a group of young ladies that are part of the Ophelia Project. That's done through JFK Foundation. So I received an invite a couple of weeks ago. And it was a really good and humbling experience. I think I was able to talk to them about, I guess the topic was, can you discuss, courage and being brave and really leaving away and aside perfectionism and sort of one of the things that the girls commented on was that they constantly are told, if you're going to do something, you should do it the right way. And so that kind of leaves no room for making mistakes and for failure. And so they invited me to talk to them about my story and share a little bit of, my childhood and growing up and just everything. And so it was really great. And then one young lady shared, we were in a circle and they asked everybody, can you share a challenge and can you share something, really great that's happening to you in your life? And this young woman, she, a high school student, I think she's a senior. She went ahead and said, you know, I'm really looking forward to continuing to have good grades, applying to scholarships so that I can pay for school, and also looking for a job in the summer so that I can help my parents pay for their rent and medical expenses. And hearing that, you know, that a high school student is thinking about that already, that they have that, I guess they have those challenges, I think really resonates with a lot of us, you know, growing up and hearing our parents talk about, you know, all of these things and challenges that we had. So it was a really great talk that, you know, really humbling to hear all of that, and just I let them know if there was anything that we could ever do for them or anything that I could help them with, mentorship, whatever it was, that we'd be there. And so it was really a really great experience to be there today. And then the other thing I want to share, last week I was in Sacramento at the Strategic Growth Council. They had their first Catalyst is a conference. And so there was a lot of folks from across the state. It was a great opportunity to be there. I was there representing the city. I found out about the conference. You know, I was taking a look at where can I go? What can I see? What can I learn? And so right before the deadline where you can register, I was able to put in my information, and the very next day, you know, they send an info if I wanted to attend. So I did, but it was a great opportunity. We talked a lot about infrastructure, the opportunities that we have when it comes to funding, federal funding, state funding, when it comes to energy efficiency. So it was a really great opportunity to be there as well. And then I did talk to Gabe earlier today and let him know I got a few business cards and contacts from folks out there that mentioned that they knew the city of Coachella had applied for a TCC grant, and not to let it go to waste, that there was a lot of opportunity to really go through the application and different things that we had on there in categories, and be able to apply for other grants for urban greening and other projects. And so I'll be sharing that with Gabe and the other Gabe, but it's really great. It was a great opportunity to be there. And so really looking forward to just working for the city, the community, and just continuing our growth. So those are all my comments.
Thank you for sharing, Councilmember Meehan and Councilmember Vera. I don't have any comments at this time. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to our new staff. And very happy that we're all here today and in the month of love, the best month of the year. Just want to remind our constituents that we do have that Talot Park meeting next Thursday at 4 p.m. We look forward to engaging with the residents in Cochelita and learn from them, and to seeing what kind of recreational spaces they want to see in their community. Aside of that, just great work, staff. I look forward to continue the year, and we'll see how we go from here. Thank you.
I got a number of updates. We did have the Riverside County Transportation Commission conference that occurred last week, Thursday, Friday. And, you know, one of the areas of concern or what was directed was that we update our mobility plan for the county. And that's important. Andrew will know what the mobility plan is, because it's a determination of, you know, ultimately of what projects get funded. And one of the things I mentioned was that it's important that, well, you know, the areas that have been built out and have gotten the resources start to reprioritize, that they not forget about the areas that haven't been built out and still need the bridges. And the question of equity and ensuring that the rural communities can continue to grow, and the growth shouldn't be looked at as a negative. And so I want to just put that on our radar, because one of the other items that was mentioned is how we're going to fund a lot of what's occurring. And so there is a talk of a countywide tax for transportation. It's needed, but that'll be forthcoming probably within the next 2 years. But I wanted to put that on the radar. Recently, we've all been getting approached about jumping on an airplane and going to check out some proposed new monuments or new parks that they're trying to get everybody in support of. I think it's great. Obviously, you have one side that wants to add land into the national monument and reserve and preserve. I think it's also important that we balance the conversations. And one of the areas of concern that has been brought up to me is that if there's new monuments, that potentially new flood control facilities will not be able to be built, particularly in the areas of Coachella, Thermal, Mecca, Oasis. And while I get it, but anytime new proposals come, we got to balance. We got to see where or what the impacts are, because certainly we don't want to be supporting efforts that ultimately can lead to huge flooding in the eastern end of the Coachella Valley. And we know that this area floods. And so I've been hearing kind of our flooding agency, very concerned about this. And so I just wanted to provide those comments because as that comes forward, Gabriel, or if there's a direction to create or to get support, that the conversation is balanced and that staff also provide us with some of potential consequences of adding more land to preserve. My opinion is not one way or the other at this point, but it's simply to state we need a balance. I know that Councilmember Virgen just came back from the Strategic Growth Council conference, which was pretty good. But just as an FYI, and I'm hoping that you are looking into this, the Strategic Growth Council just put out an RFP. They put it out about a week and a half ago for community resiliency centers. And I know we had discussed that previously. And the application is due February 28th. And so I know Selena's probably listening in, but that might be something that we might want to consider in pursuing. And again, these community resiliency centers are centers that, while there isn't an emergency, is helping us to cope and live through the challenges being faced by global warming. So how do our residents adjust, whether it be how they move physically, and whether it be how they prepare their home, whether it be daycare or mental health services, just a lot of different factors associated with a fastly changing world because of the pressures of global warming. So I wanted to put that on your radar, and I'm not sure, I haven't heard that we're pursuing that, but if we do want to, we have literally like 20 days to submit that. I did comment earlier about the lighting or the new palm trees that are going up on Avenue 50. I think they look great, tying in the communities. One of my areas of concern, Maritza, I know you're listening, is how do we continue to blend in older communities with the newer communities? And case in point is that as you look at the Palo Verdes that have been planted, they're probably about 20 something years old, and then the way they've been pruned, they're like one small little stick with like a bush on top, and they don't look very attractive. But we may want to start thinking about a landscaping plan for that whole corridor, and slowly going through and replacing those Palo Verdes with different plant material, particularly as the wind blows and they get blown down. And the Lennar development on Avenue 50 and Van Buren, for example, all of those Palo Verdes that existed there have been destroyed, and so they haven't been replaced with anything else. But I'd like to really get a plan going, Gabriel, on what we could replant that whole corridor, so that way we can get some sturdier trees that last 50 years as opposed to just 20. And then same thing on Here in downtown on Harrison, I'm sorry, Cesar Chavez, you know, our palm trees are growing, they're looking great. But what hasn't been adjusted is the actual little lights, and some of the lights are off. And so I'm hoping that staff can start making some night rounds in terms of looking at what lights are on, what lights are off, and then making some adjustments for that. In addition, I'd like to have staff come back with an ordinance or an approach to look at some of the street vendors that we're having. We're having a lot of street vendors at night on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Actually, it probably starts Thursday going to Sunday, but I know that they're allowed by law in order to do street vending, but that's because we haven't had an ordinance in place, or we don't have an ordinance in place that regulates it. And I think there's good reason to regulate that from a public safety standpoint, because a lot of these folks will get right in the middle of the street and put roses in your face, and and it becomes a public safety concern. So if we can come back with some ordinance to look at how we're going to handle that, that'd be great. And if you could maybe even just educate the council on what other cities are doing or how they're regulating that, I think that's something that we would like to see. That's a lot for the next few days. And with that, the floor is yours, Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give you guys a couple. We have our community cleanup event this Saturday at the Bagduma Park from I think 8 to 11. Also on February 14th, there's a nonprofit doing a free neutering and spay clinic right here in Bagduma Park as well from 10 to 2. Would like to have Gabe bring up his new building official and introduce him.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the City Council. Gabriel Bettis here, Development Services Director. Happy to announce we have a full-time building official for the past, I don't know how many years, maybe like the last 3 or 4, 5 years. We've had a contract building official that was here only part-time. So we get a lot of requests, about where's my plan check? I need someone to help me with some building official expertise, and we have to tell them to wait. So now we have a full-time building official. Hit the ground running, is trying to archive and digitize all of our files. If you've ever been in the building room, there's just full of files, but we're getting things cleared out that are just some overdue plan checks, and that's really good. Lisandro, I'll introduce him right now, but he used to be a building official for the city previously. So he's been able to get some experience at other cities and actually other states. So he was doing work in Montana, working with the city of Palm Springs, the city of San Luis Obispo. But I'll have him. You have anything to say?
Yeah, thank you, council, for your time and opportunity here. You guys have a great team here. They're very caring of what goes on in the city. And I just, want to come in and just be an asset to the city and help shore up that building department. Had a lot of meetings already with developments around the city that Gabe's taking me to. And had an opportunity to meet with a lot of homeowners that have had a lot of ADUs that haven't been addressed. So had a meeting with one homeowner today and set up a second meeting with him Monday to get some corrections. So I'm gonna meet with him Monday so we can try to get his permit out. And anyone that will be coming in to apply for permits, they'll have access to me. I put my cell phone number on my business card, so we're able to kind of expedite these permits as fast as we can and make myself available to them to provide that oversight in the building department for development.
Thank you. Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome back.
Congratulations.
All right.
I'm happy to be back here. So coming back home here. I love it.
And then one final item, the Development Services Department would like to schedule, if the council is interested, a design workshop with the Planning Commission and City Council on Saturday, March 11th or Saturday, March 18th. We will bring in Henry Lenny to do a presentation on the designs of the urban design downtown areas, agricultural marvels. This gentleman has a lot of experience. He's done, I think, presentations for the Planning Commission in the past. And the Development Services Department would like to request if the council would be interested in doing something like that. After the presentation, we would do a walking tour of the downtown area and kind of talk about certain areas and architectural features. If that's something that the council is interested, in, please let me know, and then we can set that up.
Sure, I think it's important that we get the new commissioners on board too. That way we can do it twice.
I'll attend whatever the majority is open to.
That concludes my
You,
comments.
you failed in introducing your interim finance director.
Oh, everybody knows Bill, but yeah, Bill, come on up. Everybody know this is Bill Pattison, our interim finance director, also our previous city manager and finance director. He will be here helping us during this crucial time in regards to the audit mid-year and budget. His experience is vital. His knowledge is amazing, and it's good to have him back.
Thank you. Thank you for putting your faith in me. I look forward to serving again. I'm happy I'm not in that seat. I prefer being in the back, but I'll be up here a lot with you too. So we got a lot to do. We have mid-year coming up. We got negotiations. We got budget. So we're almost finished up with CAFR. It's not called CAFR anymore, it's called the ACFR. So
You're late. You're late.
I am, huh? No, I put in for the extension, we got it, and we should have the financials wrapped up by the end of the month. So,
All right, thank you.
Busy work on something. Thank you for having me back, and I look forward to working with all of you.
Wonderful, thank you.
For keeping us on track.
All right, well, with that, we are adjourned at 7:06.